Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is all about the luxury that I really think is worth the money. I did a video a few weeks ago on luxury items that I didn't really think were worth it for me personally. I did get a request to do a video on the luxury that I did actually think was worth it and I think represents good value. So that is what I'm doing today. I'm focusing in only on luxury bags today, and I've been really strict. I've looked at my entire collection and I've judged this based on today's value versus what I bought them for, because there have been so many price increases. So everything is on today's value. I hope you guys enjoy this and let's get started. Just a little word about my selection criteria. As I mentioned, I was super strict, but I looked at a whole variety of different factors. So yes, I took into account today's price, but I also looked at the quality, how it's worn, functionality, and also the perceived kind of classic nature of the bag and whether I think it's going to have good resale value as well. That's not to say all of these have incredible resale value, but I think they all stand up pretty well, especially compared to some other bags. And I do think resale value is something that's worthwhile considering. Even if you have no intention of ever selling a bag, it is a useful indicator of one, how classic the bag is, but also how well it dates, how kind of in style it is. And I just think it's something worthwhile considering. So I have thought about all those things, and because of that I've excluded a lot of bags in my collection which I absolutely love but may fall down on one of those aspects. So what is here is what was left, and I do think all these bags do pretty well in terms of that criteria. So let's get started with the first one. So first up, and this is in no particular order, but it is the Gucci Dialysis, and I do have all the prices in my head, but I have them in GBP, so I will put the current prices in USD on screen as well. I believe this one retails now for 2.6, so £2,600, which is a lot of money. I think I bought this for quite a bit less than that. I have in my head it was more around the £2,000 mark, which obviously is quite a bit cheaper, still a lot of money. But even at today's price of, you know, 2,600, I do think it's a really solid buy. It's beautiful quality, and you know, it's absolutely not for everyone in the sense that it's quite heavy and it's not the roomiest bag ever. But if you want a really solid flat bag, which perhaps, you know, isn't Chanel in terms of the look or the price, this is still so luxurious. It is beautifully made. I do think it's really classic. You know, these were released quite a few years ago now. I still see them about like very often. And I don't think it's dated at all. Like, I think it's had incredible staying power. You can of course get these both in the canvas as well as the leather. They do a few different options. They do a few different sizes as well. This one I believe is the small size, but I will link everything in the description section. But it's just been fantastic. I love this bag so much. I particularly love this combination, but to be honest, they're all beautiful. The detailing on the clasp is just stunning, and it's when you kind of properly feel the bag that you're like, oh wow, like this is serious quality. It's not a mystery like why it costs as much as it does, which is sometimes the case with luxury bags now, whereas I feel like this is immediately clear. Like the work that's gone into it, the design, the execution, like I just think it's stunning. So if this is your cup of tea in terms of the look, I don't really think you can do much better at this price point. It's very sturdy. The structure is fantastic. It's worn amazingly well. I have traveled with this bag as well. It looks still absolutely pristine, and that's inside and out as well. The only negative for me is the weight, and that is something you have to determine, you know, whether that's going to be an issue for you or not, because it's definitely quite a heavy bag. But if you're comfortable with the weight and you like the style and you're fine with the capacity, I just think it's gorgeous. You know, I think it's pretty classic. I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. And for the money, yes, it's a lot, but it's a solidly made bag, which I do think is pretty classic. So for me, I do think it's worth it. It was worth it then. I still think it's worth it now. If I lost this bag now, or if it got stolen, heaven forbid, I would repurchase it. I just think it's gorgeous. It's a frequent one I reach for, and yeah, I just absolutely adore this style. Next up is the Saint Laurent Lulu line, and this probably comes as no surprise to anyone because I am such a huge fan of both Saint Laurent and the Lulu line in general. But in terms of classic bags, which I think are, you know, they have good longevity, nice quality, functional, like ticks all the boxes. This is just a really solid buy. So I kind of lumped the two styles in together because they are so similar. So I have the Lulu in the small size. This is like the classic line Lulu, and then I have the puffer version right here, also in the small size. Obviously I really like this colorway, it's just the nude with the gold, but for me, like, there isn't really too much in it. It just kind of depends on which is more your style. Do you want something that's maybe a little bit edgier? Then I'd go for the puffer. If your style is a little bit more classic, then I'd probably go for the classic Lulu. But again, they are obviously very similar. In terms of prices, I think this one retails for about 2,200 now. I think this is a tiny bit more at 2,400. So I'm just gonna have the one here just for ease of handling. I would say that I'm a little bit surprised at how well the puffer line has done in terms of longevity. I did not think that this bag would be as popular as it's turned out to be. I think it's actually had very good staying power. When it was first released, I loved it, but I thought it was super trendy. I know so many people hated it as well, and I just feel like it's gone from strength to strength. Again, for me, it just comes down to, you know, what is more your personal style. The quality on both is pretty similar. I'd say the leather on the puffer line is maybe a little bit nicer in terms of just how soft it feels, but then it doesn't have quite the same structure as the classic Lulu. But apart from the differences between the two, I do think that these are really solid buys. Yes, they've undergone some pretty hefty price increases. They were definitely a lot cheaper a few years ago, but even with the increased prices, I do think that these are worth it. This is another bag where if something happened to my ones, I would rush out and buy them again instantly because I just think they're great. You know, the colorways I got are very neutral as well, which definitely helps. But in terms of functionality, they're fantastic. They're very easy to wear. They go with absolutely everything, very comfortable to wear as well. The wear and tear has been fantastic on both. Like, I've worn both of them a lot and they look pretty much good as new, and I do take care of them for sure, but this is not a bag that I'm scared to use at all. I like the fact that you can kind of dress it down and dress it up. It doesn't feel overly restrictive in terms of where you can wear the bag. And they're just very comfortable, gorgeously made bags, which I'm just a huge fan of. I don't think that either of these are going anywhere anytime soon. As I've said before, I think the classic Lulu line is perhaps a smidge more classic, but the Lulu puffer line continues to surprise me in terms of its longevity. So who knows, maybe the puffer line will outlast the classic Lulu line, but whichever one you go for, I think both these are fantastic and I would just recommend them to anyone. Next up is the Chanel Mini, and I thought long and hard about what, if any, Chanel bags would make this list. I settled on the Chanel Mini just because it's, you know, still a very expensive bag, but it's not quite as ridiculous as the classic line, and you do have all the hallmarks of a Chanel classic flap, but without, you know, the double flap and all the multiple thousands of pounds that is going to cost you if you do want, you know, a small, medium or above size flap. I do think it's a gorgeous style. I really like the mini size, and considering it can fit almost as much as the medium flap but is less than half the cost, I just think this makes for a much better buy. Obviously you can probably get, you know, 2 or more other bags from this list and many other bags as well for the same price, so I think it very much comes down to how much you love Chanel, how much you would want one of these. But if, you know, Chanel just speaks to you and you desperately want a style in your collection, I do think that this represents better value for money than a lot of their other styles. And in my experience of owning a few Chanel Minis, I've never had any quality issues. You know, some of their more seasonal styles I don't think are always the best quality, whereas I don't think that's true of these. They have been good quality for me throughout the years. You know, I have bought them on separate occasions and they do all seem to stand up fairly well to wear and tear. Obviously it's quite a classic look, and I do think it's a really adorable style. And speaking of houses affiliated with Karl Lagerfeld, I have my Fendi mini Peekaboo here, and this one I want to say is kind of more representative of the whole Peekaboo line. I don't massively think it matters which one you go for. So this is the petite, they also have a mini, and they also have the medium as well. So it just kind of depends on what size you're most attracted to and will think work for you. But regardless of what size you go for, I think the Peekaboo is a fantastic bag. They are expensive. They go up to many thousands because they do some exotic skins as well, but for the standard medium Peekaboo, I think they start at around 4,000. So, you know, definitely expensive. I don't feel like the prices have really gone up to the degree that other fashion houses are. So a few years ago, I think they were quite a bit more expensive than other bags, whereas now I feel like everything's kind of catching up to them and they don't seem to be increasing their prices at the same rate. So I'd say they probably represent a little bit better value now than they used to. And I think this is an incredibly classic line. You know, it's been around for many years at this point. I still think it looks as chic today as it did when it was first released, and there is so much to choose from the different materials and colors to the different sizes. I did sell my medium one, but if I ever had the kind of lifestyle or need for that size of bag in my life, I would buy it again in a heartbeat. Like, I think it's so elegant and chic, it's beautifully made, the detail on it is wonderful, and I just think it's gorgeous. Like, it's a bag that I miss and I don't want to repurchase it until I do actually have a need for it, but I hope I do one day because it is just so stunning. In the meantime, I do have the petite, which is very small, but I do make it work. If you want a little bit more room, then they do have the mini version as well. But I just think these are adorable. They're beautifully made. You know, everything about it, from the stitching to the hardware, like everything is just so lovely. The leather is always really nice quality. Customer service is also incredible as well. Like, it's just such a different experience from most other luxury stores out there. They really seem to care and want to take the time with you, and you also get the little rain covers with them. Like, I just think it's all wonderful. So, and I think once you buy your first Fendi bag, like, you absolutely buy into the hype. Like, it is one of those brands. But yeah, I have been thrilled with mine, and I do think these are very much worth the splurge. Next up is the Saint Laurent Gabby, and this is the newest bag in this list by far in terms of the design and when it was first released. Everything else on this list I feel like has been pretty tried and tested. This is very new, but I wanted to include it because I do think it has all the hallmarks of something which is going to have very good staying power, and I do think it is a great buy. It's, you know, a pretty classic design. There's nothing too much to it. You have the classic YSL logo right there. You do have the combined chain and leather strap, and it just has that really lovely quilting. I guess it's kind of like a pared down camera bag in terms of the style, but it's just a very simple mini bag. So I don't think that things like this generally date too much. You know, there's nothing to really age it. I think it's very functional. It kind of looks to me like a vintage bag anyway, which is also why I think it's going to have good staying power. And I just think for the money, it's a really solid choice. You know, it's under £1,000. I don't know if it's going to stay under £1,000 for too long, but it currently is. You have that beautiful leather all the way throughout. It's a very soft, nice leather too. It is fully lined in leather also. The zip is nice and smooth too. And it's just gorgeous. You know, it fits a surprising amount, it's very functional, and if you're looking for a really nice kind of go anywhere crossbody and you do like Saint Laurent, I think this is a lovely choice. It comes in both black and white. I definitely want the white one in my life as well. I hope they release it in other colors, but regardless, I think this is a great little choice, and I do think it's worthy of inclusion in this list, even if it is still fairly new. So from very small to really quite large, but the Chloe Woody Tote. This isn't such an old bag either. It was only released a couple of years ago, but it kind of made a splash as soon as it was released, and it's just gone from strength to strength. Like, it's clearly a very popular bag because they have expanded and expanded this line. So you can get big ones, you can get small ones, you can get leather versions, you can get furry versions. Like, they really have kind of focused in on the Woody Tote line and really expanded it and tried to milk it for all it's worth. I think this is probably one of the more classic original ones and still my favorite. This is the larger size one. I have also tried the next size down, which I think is great too. Not too much in it in terms of the size. This is definitely bigger, but they're both definitely large bags. But I just think this is wonderful. You know, I go on about it a fair bit. It's gone to Mexico with me, to Greece. It's like a go-to travel bag for me because it is so functional. And even though I have not babied this in the slightest, it still looks pretty good, and it is very forgiving in terms of the fabric because you have this kind of speckled effect, so you can't always tell what's design and what's dirt. And I appreciate that in my bags now. It's just very useful. Even the more kind of delicate parts like the cream trim, I found have done very, very well. It's very roomy, the lining, and typically speaking, I do dirty up my linings quite a lot because I'm not as careful as I should be with my tote bags, but it still looks pretty great. And it's just immensely functional, very well made. I carry a ton in here sometimes, and it's still doing very well in terms of the stitching. There's no tearing at all. And I can't say enough good things. It's definitely more expensive than it once was. It's now a little bit over $1,000, I think, but you can usually find it on discount. And yeah, for me, I would recommend it to anyone. One of my best buys over the last few years. I just love it to bits, and I absolutely think this one is worth the money. And of course I couldn't talk totes without mentioning the Louis Vuitton Nailfall, which, yes, it's way more expensive than it was, but I do still think it's worth it. I think I bought my first GM for £700. I think that was like 10 years ago now. And this one is now $1,400, a little bit more, so the GM is definitely more than that. With that said, I still do think it's worth the money. I think they are just very classic. Obviously the monograms and the prints won't be everyone's cup of tea, but if you do like them and you like tote bags, then I just think this is like a must buy in terms of generally large bags. So functional, very well made, and just generally a wonderful, excellent bag, which has really stood the test of time. So for me, 100% worth it. I love everything about this style, and yeah, I just will never get tired of this bag. And now for the Saint Laurent wristlet, and this one isn't actually a wristlet because I broke the wristlet part of it, I think well over a year ago now, and I've just never gotten around to fixing it, but I still love it as a clutch. But it does come with a wristlet attachment as well. And I just think this is great. It's a very, very similar look to the wallet on chains, but it is much more affordable. The only thing is that you can't wear it crossbody. You can also attach your own gold chain and turn it into a crossbody if you really wanted to. This is quite a bit cheaper than the wallet on chains, which generally retail for around about £1,000, and this one comes in at just under 600. In terms of gorgeous bags, which I just think are very, very good value, this really ticks all the boxes for me. It's very classic looking. It is pretty functional as well. You know, it doesn't have too many bells and whistles. It's just a simple fabric lining. It is very lightweight though. You do have that nice grain leather, so it is very easy to care for. You just wipe it clean, and I have spilled all manner of things on this bag. Like, it really has been through some things, but it still looks really fantastic. And it's the kind of design that really isn't going to date. You know, I fully anticipate this still looking very current and very in style even in 10 years time. And for the price, I don't really think you could do better if you are looking for this kind of slightly more evening appropriate bag. So yeah, I absolutely love it, would recommend it to anyone. They do have a few variations as well, so hopefully something for everyone if you like Saint Laurent, that is. And yeah, I just think these are absolutely fantastic and very much worth it, at least for me personally. And last but not least, I do think the Chloe Mini Marcy is worthy of inclusion on this list as well. This is another one that has undergone some pretty hefty price increases. It now retails for just under £1,000. I think it's like £950, but it's another one where you can usually find these on sale. So I would be looking for around about 25% off, in which case it obviously takes it down to more like the $720 mark or something like that, and I do think that represents pretty good value for money. I think these are gorgeous bags. They again have been around for many, many years. I do think it's a classic shape as well. It's something that doesn't date. It's very elegant to use. It's, you know, very simple in terms of the structure. It is just based on a traditional satchel bag. They come in so many different beautiful shades. I have the blue one here, but you know, they have creams and reds and pinks, like so many different colors. I just think this is gorgeous. For me, it is a little bit more of a summer style, so definitely more of a seasonal one. But if you are looking for a nice summer bag, which will see you through just so many years and also wear very well as well, I think that this is a really beautiful choice. You can fit a surprising amount in as well, especially considering it is a mini bag. And I just absolutely think it's worth it. Really, really beautiful, an absolute classic from Chloe, and just a really, really stunning bag, which I do think is a solid choice. So that is it for this video, guys. I hope that you enjoyed it. As usual, I will include links to everything I featured in the description section below. If you have any questions for me, then leave me a comment and let me know if you agree with the bags I included. If you think I missed any out, let me know in the comment section. If you enjoyed the video, please do give us a thumbs up, and as always, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.
I don't know how or how you do it. You blow my mind without a word. Ooh, stuck upside down. I might